When we left the last unit, we were talking a bit about religious revitalization, and we want to carry on that conversation. I remember when I first started kind of finding out about American Indian culture and history, it was the American Indian movement that in many ways stood out to me. And their takes on engagements with religion was one of the most fascinating sort of elements of that history. But there are many, many other stories that we can tell about religious revitalization just here in Oklahoma. So where are we heading, Dan?
Well, I think that it's a critical element in all of this is the concept of religious revitalization. And it's not just about revitalizing religions, it's about using religion to revitalize society. Mm-hmm. And we find these revitalization movements throughout the colonial world. So that indigenous peoples who find their previous lifeways, their religions, their economies, their social structures are no longer effective because of the ramifications of the colonial experience, the loss of territory and resources, confinement to reservations, enforced removal of children to boarding schools, right, religious repression. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. But Native peoples were resilient. And they wanted to find ways that they could once again make life meaningful and provide moral codes for right living and to seek divine guidance and intervention when necessary. And that's what these religious revitalizations are all about.
Right. Sorry, I was just, if I'm hearing you right, in the face of some of these kind of dissolutive forces then, we see people sometimes looking to the past in order to head up into the future.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
I think a great example of this, and part of the story is that the repression that Native peoples received was often intensified with movements against these revitalization movements. There was tremendous fear and ignorance
right,
that prevailed with respect to not just popular attitudes, but federal policy. Right. I think the ghost dance religion is a great example. This was a religion that developed by a prophet, Wavoka, in Nevada, and spread throughout the plains, into the Southwest and throughout the plains, from Texas to Canada. The ghost dance was a major religious movement, and it was oriented toward bringing back the past lifestyle, to replenish the buffalo, to bring back the deceased ancestors, and ultimately to provide protection from the U.S. military, because this is a time when the U.S. government resorted to military means to suppress Native groups.
Yeah, so we're talking about the 19th century here, but we're still talking about, in the 19th century, a revitalization movement that was happening then too. So if I'm hearing you right, this is an ongoing instance of adaptation.
Absolutely, and I think the ghost dance has its own story, and we're going to do some reading about that, and listen to some Native voices as they think about the ramifications of the colonial experience and how that's impacted their religious pursuits. But I think another great example is the Native American Church. This is a religious movement that began right at the end of the 19th century, but really came into its own in the 20th century. It's persevered, it's survived despite incredible efforts to suppress it. It's been outlawed, a religion that was outlawed, that had to function underground, if you will. Not only did it survive, but you could make the case that it's probably one of the strongest and one of the most widespread religions of Native America today, second only to Christianity.
And especially here in Oklahoma.
Absolutely. This is the cradle of peyotism. This is where it all coalesced. And by statehood in 1907, the vast majority of the tribal groups in Oklahoma had members that were actively practicing peyote.
Okay, very good. You talked about it having been illegal at one point to be a member of the Native American Church or to practice beliefs and rituals in the NAC. What happened here? If it's strong now and you can go do it, what was the shift?
Well, through a variety of mechanisms, Native peoples came together in 1918 and incorporated at the suggestion of James Mooney to put them on the same legal foundation so that they could exercise their First Amendment rights in the same ways that the general population of the United States does. Yeah.
So this guy who we've been sort of beating up on a little bit throughout here for the work that he did in ethnology, it turns out, was one of the leading advocates for American Indian folks
Mooney was ejected from Oklahoma, from Indian Territory. He lost his job with the Bureau of American Ethnology because of his adamant support and insistence that Native peoples were guaranteed the rights to religious practices of their own choosing.
Mm-hmm. Must have been doing something right. Yeah. Well, that's one of the things that I think a lot of folks in Oklahoma have had to learn, if you've been here for much time at all, that we are in this place together and we need to learn how to make that work.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.